Hey everyone, it's John here from Hockey back with another video, and today's video is going to be 5 potential NHL trades that I could see going down this offseason. So we obviously don't know when the offseason is going to happen, the draft, free agency, we don't know when that's going to go down. We don't know when GMs are going to be able to make trades, but I'm going to go over 5 potential trades. I would say a couple are hot takes, a couple more realistic, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please subscribe. Every subscriber does count. We just passed 11K, which is huge, and please smash that like button. It does really mean a lot. So let's go over it. Again, I'm going to start, I think, with more realistic, and then we'll go over to the hot takes. So starting with the New York Rangers trading Alexander Georgiev, goalie, to the San Jose Sharks in exchange for forward Kevin LABANC. So LABANC signed that prove-it deal, that 1 year, $1 million deal. It just didn't really work out for him. He still put up okay numbers, but he's supposed to be that guy who can step in on the power play, be a very consistent top 6 force, goal scorer. And I do think he's got a lot of potential. He's in his mid-20s. I think he has ways to go. And for Georgiev, I think he has that potential to be maybe an average starter or maybe even better than that. But with the New York Rangers, they have Shesterkin and they have this situation with Lundqvist. Are they going to do something where they trade him, they move him, they have a conversation with him? He's on a contract that has 1 year left. $8 million, just over $8 million. But regardless, that's a lot of cap. So do they move on from Lundqvist and keep Shesterkin and Georgiev as a tandem? I think a lot of Rangers fans want that, but still within respect of King Henrik. So I could see this trade happening in terms of value. I mean, it's a situation where Kevin LABANC is not going to get that much on his next contract based on this year. So if he signs long-term, I could maybe see in around $4 million. Like if it's 4 or 5 years, I could see in around $4 million. That's like the ceiling for me for what LABANC's proven. And obviously, if it's a short-term deal, he might sign like a 1 or 2 year deal, maybe a little higher than that, 2 to 3. So it'll be interesting. But the Rangers, that could be a situation where LABANC comes in and maybe plays on the top line with Panarin. So that could be interesting. But I do think there's a fit here, and it was talked about. And I talked about it before the trade deadline, if the San Jose Sharks would be one of the teams in on Georgiev. And I talked about LABANC as one of the trade targets for the San Jose Sharks. For the New York Rangers. So for the San Jose Sharks, Kevin LABANC could be one of the guys they move this offseason. So it's interesting. I do think it could be a trade that happens. I think it's one of the more realistic ones. Lou Lamoriello moving on from Andrew Ladd. It's just a contract that just doesn't make sense for the New York Islanders. $5.5 million cap hit. I think 4 years, 3 or 4 years left on it. So I just threw out a few teams. I mean, the Minnesota Wild, there was a trade that was close to going down with Parise going to the New York Islanders. And at one point, it was rumored that it was a 1-for-1. And then with like a draft pick, obviously, because Parise has more worth, but that contract's pretty risky. They're both 35, I believe. So was it a situation where you were sending a draft pick or a bigger deal? I know at one point it was potentially like a prospect and a pick, and Mikko Koivu potentially going to the New York Islanders, but then Mikko Koivu wanted to retire with the Minnesota Wild. So there was conversations there. With the Calgary Flames, I think it's more of a situation like Milan Lucic, maybe. Anaheim Ducks, potentially. Detroit Red Wings. Like, I think there's other teams. I mean, if I could throw another team out there, maybe the Chicago Blackhawks. Like, I think there's potential maybe for that. So 5 teams: Minnesota Wild, Calgary Flames, Anaheim Ducks, Detroit Red Wings, Chicago Blackhawks. Like, the Blackhawks would be more like Seabrook situation there. I think the Anaheim Ducks are more retooling, and they have a couple contracts. Like, they only have 1 year left on the back of his contract, and there's a couple other contracts there. But if I had to predict a few teams, those would be the teams. Next one. This may be a hot take. I don't know. This might be a hot take to some people. Phil Kessel to the Buffalo Sabres. I could see it, honestly. Again, Phil Kessel, I think, could do very well. I mean, we saw a lot of success with Malkin. And again, there was maybe a little bit of a downfall there. But I really think he could benefit from playing with a top centerman again. And Jack Eichel would be that. And the Arizona Coyotes might be seeing Taylor Hall gone. And maybe they try to get different pieces back in exchange for Phil Kessel. Obviously, the money was retained off the $8 million cap hit. He's at a $6.8 million cap hit with what the Leafs retained. So Coyotes targets. I mean, if you were trying to match cap and you were maybe looking for young guys to come back, you would maybe bring that Jeff Skinner contract back and maybe looking to target a guy like, again, I don't think the Buffalo Sabres want to lose a guy like Henry Jokiharju or like Casey Middlestad. I don't think they want to give up on him yet, but those are options. And I mean, Colin Miller is one of those guys that I feel like Colin Miller, Rasmus Ristolainen, Brandon Montour, with Jokiharju coming to the fold, I don't think you're going to keep all three of those guys long term. So I really could see the Buffalo Sabres trading one of Colin Miller, Ristolainen, or Montour this offseason. I could really see it happening. I would not be surprised at all. So that's in conversation, but I do think Phil Kessel could be a very good fit with Jack Eichel. You got the youth of Eichel, and Eichel's, I mean, he's been getting really frustrated. I think he wants another piece. And even if Kessel doesn't fit on that top line with Eichel, maybe you get another guy, fill that center spot in that second line. I don't think Johansson really fits. Marcus Johansson, for me, is more of a winger. So that's a conversation to be had. All right, so this is a huge hot take. Johnny Gaudreau to the Flyers, Devils, Islanders. Gaudreau's from the Devils, and I do think if the Flames have an early exit again, they're going to make a huge move, and I could see it being Gaudreau. Gaudreau has a lot of worth, and this could be a huge blockbuster. And what I was thinking, again, this might be a huge hot take to some people, but would it be fair to see a VAN-RIEMSDYK and Nolan Patrick for Gaudreau and maybe another piece, for example? I was thinking of a mock trade, and I was kind of thinking, again, this is huge hot take-ish, but if you were to see Johnny Gaudreau, there was the Sam Bennett rumors, so maybe Sam Bennett going to the Flyers, and seeing a big package, and again, maybe another piece from the Flames as well, but seeing a huge package of VAN-RIEMSDYK, Nolan Patrick, and Shane Gostisbehere for again, a draft pick, maybe Gaudreau and Bennett. Again, I'm not saying that would be the trade or if that's fair or not, but I'm just saying in terms of the players that have been trade rumors, Gostisbehere for sure, Nolan Patrick and the injury issues, I don't think the Flyers want to give up on him yet, but if you're a Flyers fan, I feel that's really intriguing. VAN-RIEMSDYK, that contract, I feel is already looking risky on the second half of it. They would be taking a huge chance on Nolan Patrick. A huge chance, but it could benefit them as him being the number 2, and VAN-RIEMSDYK could benefit. Again, is that a bigger trade? Would they look at a guy maybe like Gostisbehere? I feel Gostisbehere, even though he's a left shot, would be a great partner for Mark Giordano. He brings maybe a little more offense than TJ Brody on some nights, and Giordano can obviously average out that pairing. So again, this is a huge hot take, but if the Flames get an early exit again, they might make that huge trade, and Gaudreau's from the New Jersey, so maybe the Devils, maybe the Flyers, maybe the Islanders. I think Lou Lamoriello would be very interested in a guy like Johnny Gaudreau. And the huge hot take, more of a hot take than this one, and I already made a video on it, Patrik Laine. So I think it's more likely Patrik Laine stays with the Winnipeg Jets, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Laine could get traded. Again, he signed a 2-year deal. I think that was more to prove himself, but there have been question marks, or I guess maybe a little bit of issues behind closed doors. I think it's likely he stays, but I do think there's the potential of him being moved. Maybe in the short term or long term. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I just messed with that word twice. But Jets targets, Max Domi, Ryan Poehling, JESPERI, KOTKANIEMI. I think for those 3 guys, they could be part of a package that, again, huge hot take, but if it was to go down, Max Domi, an RFA, maybe you signs long-term with the Winnipeg Jets. I think if you're looking at one of the prospects, I think Suzuki's the guy you want to keep if you're Montreal, so Poehling or KOTKANIEMI, and then the first-round pick, and you go from there. I think that would be the starter package. So let me know what you think. Again, that's a huge hot take, but I feel like if we're talking about superstars that could be traded this offseason, Laine is in one of them. Again, he's in that conversation, but Jets fans and other fans need to chill. I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but I'm making the video because I think it's in the realm of possibility. So let me know what you think. Again, I do think that 2 of these trades, or maybe 3, are likely or potential to happen. Again, I could see Kessel being traded again. I could really see it. I could very well see LABANC and Georgiev being traded this offseason, and I could definitely see Andrew Ladd being traded. Outside of that, do I see Gaudreau being traded? Maybe not, but if the Flames have an early exit, I think it's a very likely possibility they make a huge trade. Maybe that's a different player. And for the Winnipeg Jets, they need defense. They definitely need defense. And I didn't have defense in those targets, more because I think some people read into it. Maybe there's a bigger package where, again, Petrie's a pending UFA after next year, so he has 1 year left after this year. But maybe you just include him anyways and try to convince him to finish out his career there. Maybe you go for a different defensive option. There's a whole bunch of options there. But for the Winnipeg Jets, they have a lot to consider because Laine will be on the last year of his 2-year deal upcoming. So thank you so much. Please subscribe if you're new. Again, don't take those last 2 just to heart too much. Again, I think there's a possibility. I don't think it's likely. I think there's a possibility. Those first 3 trades, though, I think there's some merit to it. I think there's some, I would say, smoke. And again, where there's some smoke, there's some fire sometimes. So thank you. Subscribe if you're new. Smash that like button. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. This was John from Hot Take Hockey. Have a good one. Peace out.